My first guest has lived in Northampton for all of his 35 years. He spent 20 of them living in an area known as Poets' Corner. At the time, not realising just how big a part of his life poetry was later to become.
I'm but an autumn leaf upon the ground, a remnant of all summers past. The ember sun above me shines, to warm me on my bed of grass. My golden skin, now paper thin, moves in rhythm with the wind. And though I have no place to call my home, I still belong to where the seasons roam, be it summer, winter, spring or fall, regardless of the time of day. Oh, how I dance amongst a sea of souls, unafraid of change that comes my way. And though the years may differ each time around, I'll forever be an autumn leaf upon the ground.
Wow, lovely. James, welcome. James McInerney,
Hi.
Poet, although for many years, as I say, didn't know it. Because when you were younger, you had no interest in poetry, typical for a boy, no interest in poetry whatsoever. So what changed?
Well, I don't really know, and there's no defining point that it did change. I just really got into watching movies and the classical instrumentals film scores that came with that moment where the emotional part of the movie happened, and it really changed the movie. And I found myself kind of buying those soundtracks and listening to them. I don't know why, I just did, because I never really grew up with classical music either. And then from there I kind of like started putting words or lyrics to the music, thinking how a scene might play out, and started liking poetry.
But no interest in music other than liking to hear things. You weren't trained in any way.
No interest in classical music, no interest in poetry at all growing up. And just suddenly it happened overnight. And so I can't really pinpoint a moment where it happened, but it just did happen. And from there on, it's kind of took off.
And all those years, 2 decades in Poets' Corner as well.
Exactly, which is bizarre. I didn't realise that until someone pointed it out to me. So yeah, it really was weird.
But was English and reading and writing essays and so on when you were at school, was that something you enjoyed?
I did. I've got a very imaginative mind and I like creative writing, but not really poetry. I mean, it was never, when I was at school, it wasn't really a subject we covered. It wasn't something that was rammed down your throat. It was kind of not really there. So I don't know how I kind of got into it.
So I hated it.
Yeah,
really did. I just couldn't cope with it. All that wandered lonely as a cloud.
Yeah.
And then you spent 2 lessons over the next few days, analysing every single word and every single line. It meant nothing to me.
I think that's the thing now. People get put off by poetry because they have that in their mind, kind of Shakespeare and all that. And I think it's kind of hard to sell poetry because people are stuck with that in their mind. But I think poetry's changed nowadays, and that's why I think it's going really well for me.
Yeah, as I've got older and grumpier, it has become more accessible. But I'm a family guy, sort of. That's my level of humour and intellect. So coping with stuff that is a little bit highbrow, I am a little bit frightened by that sort of thing, as I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, and I think people have that in their mind, and it has been over the years. It's been me trying to show people a different kind of poetry, kind of like reading someone's diary, their emotionals, their thoughts, and everything, and saying, "Hey, poetry is that, but this can be poetry as well." And I think it's really starting to take off, and people are kind of changing their mindset. And the next generation of people that didn't have that at school, the Shakespeare, are coming on board, and they're going forwards with poetry in a positive way, I think.
And do you think, certainly with some of the youth culture, the sort of rap music and stuff like that, so I hate it personally, but I do secretly admire the way they're able to put the words together.
Yeah, and I think lyrics is kind of like poetry. I mean, they're intermix and everything. And I think that is what people see. They look at a song, but they also look at the lyrics, and they get into the lyrics, and that's what people look for, and obviously the music. But say it is, poetry and lyrics are pretty much the same thing.
You're opening yourself up, aren't you? It's quite an emotional journey when you actually either perform something, as you did when we started talking, or when you actually commit it to paper and have it printed, or it goes online, because it's a little bit of you that you're giving away each time.
It is pretty scary. It's also how people think, like it, how they respond to it. You are putting all your work out there for people to read, and obviously I like it, but it's a scary moment when people read it, think, do you like it? And it's that second moment you think to yourself, is it going to be good enough? And there's always that in your mind. So it is pretty scary. And
I guess it's a snapshot of your emotion at the time that you committed to actually write something as well, because you could have been on a high, you could have been down a bit for all sorts of reasons.
I mean, there are a lot of my personal poems in there from me, but a lot of them as well also from the type of music I'm listening to at the time, and that really helps the poem as I go along, and that kind of defines the journey of the poem from the beginning to the end, and that's pretty much the only way I write with music. I can't really do it any other way. I've tried, it just doesn't really work.
Okay, can we hear something else?
Yeah.
Because I know you've got loads of stuff. You're
I have.
a little dynamo when it comes to the keyboard.
I'll do a shorter one, because shorter ones are quite popular. It's called Today Not Tomorrow. It goes like this. Tomorrow's sky will never show such beauty as it did today. The way the sun sets and rises will happen in a different way. The rain may fall again upon me, though it won't taste or feel the same. The wind may be calm and gentle, yet it still won't recite your name. The world will keep on turning, as though it knew no other way. It won't have realised how beautiful it was just yesterday.
It's quite prophetic, isn't it, really? You know, you've pointed something out that's actually blindingly obvious,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
all overlook it.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
every day is different.
that's the thing, and I think sometimes people read them, and that's why they like them. It's because it is kind of stating the obvious, but in an easy format that people can relate to.
Now, last time you were on BBC Northampton, you were looking at various projects that may or may not come into fruition. You were talking about getting some work published and so on, and looking at ways that could be achieved. You were also looking at putting your poems out there via the internet, just to see what sort of interest there was. And boy, oh boy, was there some interest from around the world.
There was. YouTube, obviously being the big place that it is, put my work out, contacted artists and groups, and I said, give them the idea of, these are my words, choose them, would you like to try and turn them into lyrics? Because a lot of people have said that they work as lyrics. And I had a huge response back. Loads of artists had a go and said they were really, really popular on all the social media sites, and it's still going today. So I'm still doing that with YouTube artists, and also actors and actresses are voicing them as well. A lot of radio DJs and films, people from films and everything else. So that is still going on, and it's still really going well.
And is the internet the medium, do you think, of the modern age for poetry? Because we think of it as being sort of rather old-fashioned, traditional, and sort of set in its ways. And well, I did say you were a bit of a dynamo on the keyboard, and as I said it, I thought, well, does he actually use a keyboard, or do you write it out in longhand?
I write a thing down, I write it in pen, and I've got a lot of scribbles. I need a pen and paper in my pocket, walk about, music on. I kind of write it down and edit it on a bit of paper, because I can't really do it. And then I type it up on the computer, but it's all done by hand.
Yeah, so if you said to me, right, write some poetry now, I couldn't do it. The boy stood on the burning deck, that would be my sort of level. But is it just an inspiration? As you say, you're walking down the street, you're queuing up in a supermarket, you're taking a bath, you're about to drop off to sleep, and it suddenly hits you? Or are there various ways that the ideas come to you?
I think it's thinking of how a situation might play out emotionally, everyday situation, like which is explained with that poem. And also a bit of personal stuff in there, and like I say, and listening to the music as well. So it's a bit of everything, really. It just combines all into one poem.
And it's great that some of your stuff is being set to music by musicians now, and it's getting airplay through the social network sites and so on, and on YouTube, because that in an instant goes global. It can be accessed by anyone with a computer. And that's really opened up all sorts of possibilities.
It has. I mean, with poetry as well, obviously you've got to diversify. You can't just have the words on a book. You've got to show people different forms of it. And that is just another form of it to basically bridge a gap to another area. So we've gone from writing, we've now gone into music, and to see if it works. And luckily for me, it did. So it's showing different sides of poetry and making it more acceptable to people, and saying, okay, it is poetry, but look what else you can do with it. And I've done so much different types of things with it that it is just prove that poetry is still alive, and it is still worth investing your time in it.
And I know when we spoke originally, you were thinking about putting some stuff together in a book and getting that published in some sort of way. How did that go?
It went really well. My books, there's 2 versions of the book out on Amazon. A cheap version, because I was very conscious about not putting the price too high. And there's also a signed version with incorporate my photography in it as well.
Because that's another string to your bow. Black and white photography's got a few people sitting up and taking notice, hasn't it?
It has. That has been really popular, and the special style of black and white has gone down a treat, and I'm very proud of that as well. So what I did think I would do is incorporate that with the poetry into a book. And so that's why there's 2 versions available on Amazon. The cheaper version for people who don't want to spend a lot of money, and the bit more pricier version as well.
And do the poems link directly with the pictures?
Some do, yeah. I mean, some do. But a lot of the pictures are there just to show people another side of me as well. I don't write poetry, I do other things as well. So, it's really been showing different sides of me and different ways that people can see me, basically.
So in a few short months, you've managed to achieve all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Where to next? What's the next challenge?
I'm not sure. It's going to be YouTube. Continue with that because I enjoy doing that. I've got a few more magazine things coming up, and basically taking it day by day, because with poetry it's kind of hard to know where you fit. Say, like if I was an indie band or something like that, I could probably fit quite easily, or wrote a novel. But with poetry, it is, like you say, poetry is hard to sell, and it's knowing where you fit next, and it's contacting people and, you know, knowing what's going to be next. So I don't know what's next, but September is pretty full for me, with a lot of media stuff. And we're also, because of the price, and I'm conscious about the price, we've donated some books to the library, and they're going to be basically spread across the county for people to basically read for free.
Oh, that's nice.
So I thought that would be nice. So it's just to show that it's not about the money, it's actually about getting the words out, more importantly, and to give them to the library, and they're going to spread them across the county, and it's going to be on the catalogue system for people to borrow.
When Twitter first started, I thought, how frustrating it must be to be limited to 140 characters and so on. But actually, that's quite a good discipline, isn't it, to sort of train you to think more concisely. With poetry, I guess you're doing a similar sort of thing, aren't you? Because you're condensing a wide range of thoughts into one or two lines each time, one or two verses. You mentioned about a novel. If I was writing a novel, is that something you'd like to do you think?
I have written some chapters of novels, but I actually have to be really disciplined for that. I mean, I think I would probably lose interest about halfway through the book because my mind wanders, and I couldn't be strict enough. But with the poetry, you're doing one at a time, and when you're working on that one piece, you're not writing 50 chapters of a book. So I think I'll stick with poetry.
Okay. Great to talk to you again. Well done on everything that's been achieved so far. Good luck for the future. Do keep us posted about what's going on, and people can check you out online, of course. We'll get some details from you.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll do that first, and then we'll have a poem to finish with, if you don't mind. I know it's a bit cheeky of me getting you to come work when you come in here, but so if people want to find out more, where do they go?
I have a website. Obviously, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, but I have a website which is James McInerney's McInerney.wix.com/poetry. If you just type James Wicks Poetry into Google, because you can basically search me all over Google. I'm all on there anyway.
Ooh, get you.
Yeah, well, when you put stuff on the internet, it stays there forever and you appear everywhere. So, and the books are on Amazon. Just type in between the lines and James, and they basically appear. And they're on Amazon all around the world. So Italy, France, it's the whole global thing. So it's available pretty much everywhere.
The internet is just incredible,
it's crazy.
And scary at the same time. James, great to talk to you. Leave us with a few thoughts.
Okay, this is called I Danced a Merry Dance Today. I danced a merry dance today, as the sun came out and shone my way. All the clouds above, so dark and grey, floated beyond the horizon without delay. And the blowing winds, once a raging storm, became but a whisper of silence amongst the breaking dawn. For today I learned what I've always known, that even when there's no one around, I'm never completely alone. And as I closed my eyes, I slowly moved and heard every single step like a spoken word. For the world can seem such a peaceful place when fear is consumed by its loving grace, turning all my lovely thoughts into a gentle sway. Oh, how I danced a merry dance today.
James, that was lovely. Thanks ever so much for joining us.